This is section number 3, and we are going to complete LO1 today. And we will start with 1D1 that says, evaluate the strategic implications of choosing different sources of finance. The last part which we did was 1.3, and we did discuss in detail that what sources of finance are: crowdfunding, borrowing, loan, everything, saving, etc. Today we are going to talk about them in the same perspective, but it's going to be according to the command verb. Okay. Evaluate means to work on the strengths and weaknesses, arguments for and against, or similarities and differences. Then judge the evidence from different perspectives and make a valid conclusion or reason. Access to finance is a critical strategic decision for small and medium-sized enterprises in Saudi Arabia. Choosing the right source of finance influences ownership control. That is, you are the sole proprietor of each and everything. Risk exposure when you want to expand your business, or you're taking another project or working with a new supplier. These are all kinds of risk. Financial flexibility, more and more reserves, retain earnings in the business, profit, and growth trajectory. That is, you have plans to do the mergers and acquisition, conglomerate, diversification, and to be a multinational one day. This assessment criteria evaluates various sources of finance commonly used by the SMEs for the specific projects, providing definition, advantages, and disadvantages, and even the implications too. Real examples from SMEs in Saudi Arabia are included. As discussed earlier, the saving is the first one. It states personal money saved by the owner invested in the business, your own money. Strengths: first, no interest payments, then full ownership and control retained, quick availability. Because you are the owner of it, you know how you have saved it, so you're going to use it quite wisely. However, you have the limited amount. Savings are not always in chunks, because from those saving, we're doing extra expenses too. Then puts the personal finances at risk. Sometimes you don't know whether the idea which you have opted for and you're doing the investment in it is going to be successful or not. Implication: best for the small scale startups or the low risk expansion. For example, you have to open a food cart or a small clothing business. For example, Rawan Boutique in Riyadh uses Saudi Riyal 80,000 of the owner's savings to open a second shop, avoiding the debt entirely. Like we did the example for the Baker and Beans when they were about to open an SME in Riyadh. So what they did,
Yes.
they used their own savings for it. They did not borrow it anything. Then reserves or the retained earnings, these are known as profits saved by the business instead of distributing them. When you're in a partnership, according to the consent of the partners, when everyone agrees, only then the profit which you have earned, you can invest in the business or reuse it. Otherwise, it is the right to take the profit by every profit according to the percentile which they did the investment in it. First, there is no repayment, then there is reinforced self-sufficiency, that is whatever you like, you can do accordingly. However, opportunity cost, that is the next best alternative. What is the next best alternative here? That you're not giving the profit to the partners, but you're reinvesting in the business. Not always sufficient for the large projects if you really want to opt for the big scale projects. Implication: encourages disciplined financial management, that everything should be maintained well. Your cash flow statements, absorption costs, and management and managerial cost statement too. For example, Al Dawa Pharmacy SME division funded a tech upgrade using 250,000 Saudi Riyal from past year's earning. So what they did, they could distribute this profit, but what they did, they used in the business. Of reserves, that is the retained earnings, Al Dawa Pharmacy SME division funded a tech upgrade using the Saudi Riyal 250,000 from the past year earnings. So they could use this profit and distribute among the partners, but they did not. They used it in for the further reinvestment in the business. So this is only possible in the partnerships. But when you become a multinational limited companies, they always demand you their shares. Overdraft. What are these? These are short-term facility allowing the business to withdraw more than it has its account. That is, your capacity is, for example, 50,000, and you have granted a request to the bank and the managers, and now you can lend up to 80,000 or 1 lakh rupees. Strengths: flexible and quick interest only on the used account. That is the one which you have further asked for. You are going to keep the interest on it, and it's quite minimal. However, high interest rates. because of the short span of time. We have to return this within a year. It's not for a big span of time. Can be withdrawn by the bank anytime. And if the bank feel like you are not eligible enough to repay the amount on the interest level, they can stop that payment too. Implication effective for covering short term cash flow gaps, but risky for the long term usage. If you feel like you need to cover up the expense up to 20,000, you need extra, you can always ask the bank and they're going to help you out, but you need to give them in the double amount according to the interest payment decided. For example, some stations in Jeddah use an overdraft to manage seasonal purchase surges. Like in summers, we have an urge of the vacations items, the summer vacation homeworks, and the books. So there is a whole surge over there. Stationery, charts, each and everything. The uniform too. Bank loan. A fixed amount borrowed from a bank repaid over time with the interest. Whatsoever the amount is, you can ask them, you can demand them, and they will always grant you, but they have to see your proper rights, your bank statement that what's your criteria beforehand. First, predictable repayments. That is already the schedule has decided every month you need to repay certain chunk of amount. Can be tailored term and amount. How it can be tailored beforehand. Weaknesses, collateral often required, that is an agreement. Fixed repayment regardless of profits. The interest which you're giving, that's okay, but you need to pay the amount too. Suitable for the medium to long-term projects like asset purchases or expansion, like the machineries, they're very expensive. It's not easy. First, you need to import them. Secondly, then they need to be registered, and then you can install it and work on it. So it is a whole process and expensive too. For example, Huda's Kitchen in Dammam used a 500,000 Saudi Riyal loan for the kitchen equipment because installing the kitchen equipment is again not easy and it requires a lot of amount. Mortgage, long-term loan secured against the property, that is in Urdu, the word is called girvi. I don't know what we call in Indian language or the other language, but this is what it is. That you are taking a loan against your own property, your own rights. And if the bank feel like you were not able to return the amount, they can totally take over that property. First, low interest rates, then long repayment terms, because again, they are your own property. Risk of losing property is slower approval process, and it takes time because they need to see whether the property papers are authentic or not. Implication best for acquiring real estate or large fixed assets when we have to opt for the new buildings or the expansion for the home. For example, Arabian Sweet Delights Bakery mortgaged their original outlet to purchase land for expansion. So they can even repay it because they already are famous. They're enough. They know they can get the amount, even in the interest form as well. And then things are going to be sorted out. But mostly when normal humans, like just they take it for an XYZ reason, it is very difficult for them to repay that amount. Then comes the credit card, a revolving line of credit with a limit, usually a high interest. You're only buying and purchasing the stuff, but at the end of the month, the things that is the amount is going to be deducted. And it has a high interest as well. Easy to use for the small expenses, useful in the emergencies when there is a need, but mostly it's a trend now that we use credit card for the shopping purposes. However, it has high interest rates, can lead to debt cycles, that is, you can be stuck with it. Practical for the small urgent purchases, but dangerous if overused. For example, Oud and Incense SME store used a credit card to buy packaging materials before Ramadan. And they can even repay it very easily because in Ramadan, the sales are at its peak. Trade credit, buying goods now and paying them the later within 30 to 90 days. Mostly it is 60 days, but now the extension has been extended to 90 days. This is specifically for the suppliers, owners, and producers. We buy the raw materials, the goods from them, we work on it, polish it, we add value to it, and then we can repay them after 60 days, 30 days, or even 90 now. It improves cash flow because the money is retained in the business. We are not giving it outside. Builds supplier relationship, and they even trust us. Weakness can lead to supplier pressure, may affect credit rating. Why supplier pressure? Because sometimes when we're not making them happy, we're not paying them on 30th, 60th, or 90th day, they can cause a problem. Then credit rating, your credibility. Implication, ideal for inventory heavy businesses when you need a large and bulk amount of stuff and add that in the warehouse. For example, Zaina dates factory gets dates from farms, a 60-day credit to package and sell them first. That is, first they sell it, and then they are going to give the money to the specific supplier. Venture capital, investment from the firms or individuals in return for the equity. Equity is what? It's a kind of asset, it's kind of a capital and money as well. And we take money from an XYZ organization so that we can invest somewhere else as well. First, access to funds expertise. You are with the expert people and you have money as well now. No repayment if the project fails because you have already done the investment on the basis of equity in individuals. However, loss of ownership and control. And if something gets wrong, like it's not successful, the plan was not okay, you took the risk as well. So you just lose the ownership. Nothing is going to be harmed. High expectations from the investors because they are the one who is funding the project. Valuable for high growth innovation SMEs, innovative SME, that is, they have something new and they really want to introduce, like any new viral trend going on. Literally, the people start business out of it and they are supported by the locals too. For example, Sakhingi Tech Solution, an SME in Riyadh, raised 1 million Saudi Riyal in venture capital for an AI platform. Now, this platform requires this such chunk of an amount. That is why they were able to do it. Share issue, equity financing, both the names are same. It is selling shares to raise capital. When you become a limited company and specifically a private limited company, public limited company, you sell yourself at the stock exchange. People buy your shares and they do the investment, and in return, we give them the ordinary and preferred dividends. And in the case of private limited company, we can only sell shares to the family members and your partners. Strength, no debt or interest, investors share risk. If there is a problem, everybody is going to take that risk. And if there is a profit, a huge profit, that is that is going to be distributed equally among the partners. However, delusion of the ownership, if something bad happens, completely the organization can shut down and even the entrepreneurship. Profits are shared. Best for the long-term growth, but reduces independence. Obviously, when you're having lots and lots of partners and shareholders, how you can be the ownership, taken up the ownership of the whole organization? It's not possible. So Javista Online sold 10% of its share to an angel investor to expand marketing. That is an XYZ person, and he wanted to do it just because of the marketing and the advertisement. Crowdfunding, that is raising up the funds, or small funds with a large group, usually online. Like we're taking the loans, crowdfunding for any spicy charity program. It could be for a food drive too. Strength engages community. Then people who love to wish on the stance of humanity, they do it. And great for market testing, and even will see that whether it's going to be hit product or a mess. However, not guaranteed success. Not most of the time the crowdfunding is okay or you get a success. It's even a setback too. Time consuming campaign, it takes time. You need to wait for weeks. Excellent for the new product launches or cost driven projects. Like you can start giving up the testers, taking up the review, and if there needs an improvement, you can work on it. Eco Park Riyadh raised 75,000 Saudi Riyal for their biodegradable packaging line. Now, people who are going to be enthusiastic about the biodiversity, greenery, recycling, and everything, they're going to buy it no matter what, whether it's expensive or not. Clear till crowdfunding?
Yes. Yes.
Bond issues, fixed income debt securities sold by the companies to investors. That is, it could be um, amount of money in a form of paper, and then it is sold to different organizations and even to the individuals. First is fixed interest terms. Whatever the interest payment has been decided on that chunk need to be repaid, can raise large sums, and large amount can also be regained from it. However, only viable for more established SMEs, the one which have already taken the ground. Requires strong credit rating, that is, you are good in repaying the amount once you have used the product or raw material. Application suitable for the mature SMEs with a stable financial history, that is, they're going to be about MNCs or they're going to be national at least. Example, rare for typical SMEs like Nord Solar SME issued green mini bonds. Even when we were about to start this, uh, installation of the solar system, they used to encourage the people all around. Why? Because first, it will ultimately benefit the government. We are going to be at the safe side, but the government too is going to be at the safe side as they're going to save the electricity too, and they can get the regeneration by the consumers. And we have according to the command verb similarities and differences. Similarities are most sources aim to bridge the funding gaps, that is the amount of money. Then all impact cash flow and operation. Whatever decision you take, they're going to directly affect the inflows and outflows and with the daily operations too. Several require strong business plans, like without proper research, plan management, you cannot execute. Differences, debt, that is the loans overdraft in the form of actually loans and overdraft, requires repayment, equity shares, very catering shares does not. Why? Because when we need to repay stuff, in the start, it's very like, okay, that we're getting the money, but we need to repay it on the amount of interest. Internal sources preserve control, external may dilute ownership. Why internal source is a difference in the sense of it preserves control because you can say what is right and not. But once it you start asking the money from the consumers, the government, the agencies, the local community, you slowly and slightly lose the ownership. Long-term sources are more suitable for the asset, short-term for the operation. That is, the long-term sources of finance are mostly the bonds and crowdfunding extra. They're good to buy the assets, but when it's for the short span of time, that is less than a year, then it's good to go for those concepts which will be best for you, like savings and retained earnings. Internal sources, that is savings and reserves, are safest and preserve the dependence but are limited. Now, these are the kinds of internal sources of finance that are saving and reserves, and these are why safe because you're using your own money and you are going to be bearing up the risk to if it fails. Then comes debt sources, that is loan, mortgage, and overdraft. These should be used when predictable income supports repayments. That is, the money which is coming inside the business that is stable and you have the capability to repay back to the bank as well. Equity sources, now these are the subtypes of the sources of finance. From internal, then external, debt sources, equity sources. We see shares, crowdfunding are strategic, venture capital are strategic for innovation and growth, but require openness to sharing control. That is, you need to ask different investors and borrowers to work on it first. For most SMEs in Saudi Arabia, a hybrid financial strategy that is bilingual, using retained earnings and low risk debt. First, they're using their own money. Second, they're investing in those operations in those companies and shops even in which there is a less risk of debt. That is, we need to pay less amount. That is the credit period of the bank loans. For the core activities and equity or crowdfunding for expansion or innovation. Now, the equity source of finance and innovation is good for when you need to opt for big business or a conglomerate or a merger. It is the most strategically sounded method. Okay. The choice of finance carries significantly strategic implications for the SMEs. Each source has specific strengths and weaknesses, and the right mix depends on the nature of the project, risk appetite, and financial health of the business. Yes, it depends on the kinds of sources of finance as well, what method is going to be the best, how we are going to execute it, and for which company structure it's going to be the best. Saudi SMEs must align financing decisions with long-term goals, control preferences, and operational needs to ensure sustainable growth. That is, you really need to strive hard in the industry. You need to be thinking wisely for the sustainability and growth, and that is quite possible when you work on the long-term goals rather than achieving all the time the short terms. Till slide 20, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Okay. Then we have strategic implication of the sources of finance. It's kind of summary. Sources, we have savings, reserves, overdraft, loan, mortgage, credit card, trade credit, venture capital, share issue, crowdfunding, bond issues. We just studied it all. Now the types are only saving and reserves are the internal, rest all are external. Then the term is, let's have a look on it, savings, reserves, overdraft, loan, trade credit, crowdfunding. These are known as short to medium term. That is, you can pay it within a year or more than a year. That is 16 months maximum. Not 16, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18 months. Then ownership impact. From savings till trade credit, we do not have impact on the ownership directly. But when we go for the venture capital share issue and even the crowdfunding, there is a loss of control because of the partnerships and to be public as well. Then we have the risk level. The low risk level are for the savings, reserves, trade credit only. And the higher one are two, that is overdraft and credit card because they require large amount of interest payment. Rest all have the medium risk level, which every business also. Now I think there is a real life scenario for you people. Yes. Business name is Naj Delights Bakery in Riyadh. The project is about expansion of operations to open a new outlet in Dammam. Decision context is Nudge Delight is evaluating multiple sources of finance for funding its new bakery outlet, the one which we did right now. The owner is comparing these things. First, his personal savings, bank loan, trade credit from suppliers. It's the most riskiest one, but he's doing it. Crowdfunding on Saudi platforms like Beehive. Savings would mean to no interest payments or equity dilution, but will drain personal liquidity. What will happen when a owner or sole proprietor uses his own saving? Ultimately, what happens? His own money is finished rather than if he has taken a loan, we need to pay interest payments on it, but at least you are at a safer side. Bank loan gives flexibility in terms of size and timing, but increases financial obligations and risk in terms of interest payments. They're really, really hard. Trade credit reduces upfront cash needs and builds supplier trust, but may affect negotiation leverage. That is when we are working on the collateral basis, that is on the agreement, there is always a problem, a glitches in it. Crowdfunding can generate customer loyalty and raise awareness. Obviously, when you're going to raise the money online through different social media platforms, through different influencers, it's going to be an awareness purpose, but again, there is problem attached to it. That is, the demands active marketing and reduces the traffic control if equity is offered. Sometimes people they flood your account with lots and lots of what do we call it, money, which is they are giving to us in the form of crowdfunding, that they need to stop it immediately. So it's possible. Social media can do wonders if used wisely. Judgment. Now, the Natch Delight should combine trade credit and bank loan, keeping control intact while maintaining liquidity. That is the money which should be in the business in the form of liquid asset and cash, and consider crowdfunding, generating the money through online platforms, only if the branding and market reach are also primary goals. These two aspects, the brand advertisements and marketing strategy, these are very important nowadays as well. Even if you're not able to sell up good products or good quality products, if these two are strong, literally you can face up that risk period as well. And at least your business is going to be matured enough that it's going to be survived in the industry. That's it. We're done with LO1. I hope it is clear to both of you, Horain and
Yes, ma'am.
Rosanna.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.